Hello, friends. Welcome to another podcast that is episode 100. So, welcome to the 100th episode of Gen Z and Millennial Expert Podcast. It is great to be here. I'm obviously very excited. Today's date is February 8th, 2021. And it is Monday. So happy Monday. Well, let's get started first. I thought long and hard about how to approach the 100th episode. And I'm super excited. I'm sure maybe you're not as excited as I am, but I am very excited because this is such a milestone. But I thought about it long and hard. How can I celebrate a podcast that has lasted 100 episodes and going strong? And I thought about it, and I thought to myself, you know what? It's about celebrating with everybody, because this podcast is not about me. It's not about my life. It's about everybody else that has a chance to listen and hopefully take some positive aspects and steps that help towards their own life. Now, as I was thinking, the episode dating back to our first episode was back in early August, was the first episode on the YouTube. Then we moved from YouTube to the podcast platform, and now we're on all the major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google Play, Amazon, pretty much every single one that is of relevance, including podcasts, with Pod Addict, just name a few. So we're very excited. And again, the podcast today, I thought about it, and you know what? The perfect example would be what you saw in yesterday's football game. For those who might have watched, it was obviously the Super Bowl. It was number 55. And we had Tom Brady, arguably, probably not even arguably anymore, the greatest of all time, which is also referred to as the GOAT. And then I started think of how did he become the GOAT? Well, he had the good supporting cast of teammates throughout the years. He's in his 20th year, and he's been to the Super Bowl 10 times. And you realize, wait a minute, it's not just the teams that he's on. It's not necessarily the coaches that he's on or that are helping him. It is mainly how he goes about his business. He's a true field leader when it comes to how he approaches the game, the dedication, the time that it takes to be great. He's earlier when he was in Tampa Bay when COVID was really happening, really strong. He was out there practicing with his teammates before the season started, which the mayor of Tampa Bay and the police force actually kicked him off the field. So he could not practice because there was not supposed to be any activities on the local fields. But however, they did apologize to him later. But that goes into the dedication, the hard work that it takes to be great. So he is arguably, probably not arguably, the best NFL football player and maybe sports professional of all time, because no other professional has achieved 10 Super Bowls in 20 years. There are a few baseball players that were part of 11 championships, like back in when they're in the late 30s, or with the New York Yankees. They were a team that won so many World Series during that time. So, but again, that is a team sport. But then as we reflect, what really makes a great individual, great at their craft, great in their career, and how do they get to be the greatest of all time? Why can't any of us be the greatest of all time in our profession? Well, it doesn't mean we can't, but it has to start somewhere. And as millennials and Gen Z, as we decide to move forward and determine how we want to be the greatest, to be the greatest of all time, you have to find something that you excel in. You have to practice, you have to dedicate, You have to sacrifice. There's that hard work. There's taking care of your body. There's all the training involved. It is much harder sometimes to not do anything than it is to do something that takes so much exercise, so much strength, so much dedication. Because if you're thinking about it, you might get exhausted. And that's where a lot of us fall short. We want to be good at something, but do we really want to dedicate or provide the dedication, the tools to really succeed to the point where you are the greatest? Because to be the greatest on anything, you have to literally obsess with perfection. You have to be somebody that can find every ounce of your faults. I've mentioned it before, but a lot of the greatest athletes, the greatest singers, the greatest actors, the greatest in their fields, whatever that may be, they obsess over particulars, meaning they obsess over the finite things that are happening. They're almost obsessive compulsive to make sure that whatever they touch, whatever they do, it's perfected. So it's almost to a fault. Not everybody has that. Some people, good is good enough. And that is fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Good is good enough. But if you want to be the Tom Brady's of your career, the Tom Brady of your particular craft, the dedication, the outlook, the positive motivation. Let's put it this way. 7 days leading up to the Super Bowl, Tom Brady was texting the whole team day by day, we're going to win. We're going to win. That mindset, the mindset, he's won 7 out of the 10 Super Bowls that he's participated in. And so that just tells you the mentality, the strength, the mental aptitude that it truly takes to be almost obsessive compulsive to the point where you're going to sacrifice whatever it takes to be good, to be great, and to be ultimately the greatest of all time in your career, in your craft, or whatever it may be. Now let's talk about what it is like in our career. So we all go to work, we all strive to be successful, we train, we do whatever it is, we do the classes, we communicate, we excel, we try to be leaders, we do all these different things. But whatever we do, we still may not be Tom Brady. And that's okay. But the point of being the greatest of all time, or just being great at what you do, is about putting forth the hard work. Not everybody is talented, gifted in particular areas. Some people are good at a lot of things. They're the jack of all trades, but master of none. And some are able to be great at many things. But that's just how we are all molded differently, from the way we're raised, to the point of our education, to the background, whatever it may be. There's a variety of reasons why we are the individuals we are. Sometimes it's the parents pushing the child to be great at something when they're young. And guess what? They ultimately end up being great moving forward. Now let's just go back to Tom Brady for a second. In the 7 out of the 10 Super Bowls, he has never performed great during the Super Bowl. He's been adequate. Like yesterday, for anybody that knows football, he threw for about 200 yards. Well, 200 yards is not that great. A lot of people throw 300, 400. Patrick Mahomes threw for 270 yards, and he was on the losing team. But it's about how you lead your team. It's about how you plan, how you practice, what the ultimate game plan is. And that game plan is what is going to lead you to be successful. For example, Tampa Bay's game plan against Kansas City was simple. Have 2 safeties, and then don't stack the box. Don't allow him, as in Patrick Mahomes, to make the big play. And all he was able to do was dink and dunk. He was getting pressure all the time. So they didn't plan for that. Part of their game plan was not to be pressured. They expected that arguably a great quarterback, or the handing off from Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes, was supposed to happen during this Super Bowl because he performed so admirably throughout the whole year. But the defense of Tampa Bay prepared for that. They prepared to stop him. And then on the other side, Tom Brady was able to be a great field general, be a great leader, make the right throws when he needed to. So that goes back to us as leaders, as employees, career-minded, oriented, or whatever we may be doing if we're in school, trying to get the best grades. It's about your game plan. What is your game plan to be great? You don't just walk out of your house one day and all of a sudden you're the best actor, you're the best lawyer. First of all, you have to have the initial training to be successful. Then you have to start setting yourself up for success. And then you need to make sure whatever you do, you dedicate, you have hard work, you sacrifice. And that's a lot of the things that all the greats will do. Besides being obsessive, compulsive, they'll sacrifice almost everything, or maybe they will sacrifice everything to be great. Sometimes they are so tunnel focused with the tunnel vision they have, they don't see anything else but how can I get better? And that's where the obsessive compulsive part comes in. So it's the absolute discipline, it's the obsessive compulsive, and it is a drive to succeed, which is why when you see people that are successful in their field, like the Tom Bradys of the world, it's obviously, that it's because of the hard work, it's the game plan they go through, it's the rigorous succeeding, the perfection to succeed. And that is the way that individuals are to be great. If you think of somebody that that is absolute on top of their game, they're the best in their field, ask them what makes them so great. Why are they so good in their field? And sometimes they're going to say, well, no, I'm not that great because I can improve on this, I can improve on that, and I need to continually to improve. You're rarely going to find somebody that is really, really great, and for them to say, you know what, this is the best I'm going to be, and I'm happy, and I am the greatest of all time. You'll never hear anybody say that. They'll credit their teammates, they'll credit their the rest of their employees, or they'll say, hey, you know what, we got a lot of work to do, or we'll continue to improve, and we've got to get better in the off season, or we have to get more clients. I have to do a better job on my sales calls, the contracts. I have to make sure I lead my team better. I struggle with this. It just goes on and on and on. They can't look in the mirror and look at how much they succeeded. And that is what separates the great ones from the wannabe great ones, to the I wish I could be a great one, or to the pretenders, to the ones that think they're great, that think they're on top of the world, that think they're the best, but they don't really know because they stopped working or putting the work in. They may have succeeded in monetary value. They may have succeeded in fame. They didn't get to the point where they were the greatest of all time or the greatest in their craft. And that was the difference between them and the Tom Bradys of whatever perfectionist craft or compulsive, obsessive desires they have to be the best. Tom Brady said he's going to play at least till he's 45 years old. And as long as he continues to take care of his body, continue to be a good leader, and really take care of the people around him, what does that sound like to you when I say those? Besides taking care of your body, it actually, as individuals, no matter what industry we're in, we all need to take care of our bodies. So we got to watch what we put in our bodies, the food we eat. But what Tom Brady sounds like, he sounds like a leader. That is what he's doing on the field. He's leading his team. And as Gen Z and millennials, That's what you can do if you're an employee or you're in a management leadership role. We all can be leaders. How do you be a leader if you're in a career-minded role where you may not have directives under you? Easy. Lead by example. Leading by example is the best way to not only get noticed by your leadership team, but you'll also get the respect of your team. And ultimately, that will lead you to the success of becoming a leader or obtaining that promotion or getting to the point where you have promise, maybe the aptitude to be the greatest you could possibly be. So let's talk about the greatest of all time versus the greatest you could possibly be. What do you think is more prominent role for most people to succeed in? Being the greatest you can. That is right. The greatest of all time may be a stretch for a lot of people because we all cannot be the greatest of all time in our professions. But what we can be is the greatest we possibly can. And that is where we go back to setting yourself up for success, putting the time, the work, learning the knowledge, working as hard as you can. But remember, it's about working smarter, not harder. It's that discipline. It's that sacrifice. I've always shared obtaining my doctorate degree. It was a lot of sacrifice. It was a lot of weekends inside the house, researching, going over how I can improve on it. And that's where I had to be almost obsessive compulsive, because anybody that obtains a doctoral degree has to be obsessive compulsive. You have to be focused on the details, and you have to continue to be disciplined and continue to move forward, because you'll get frustrated, you'll want to quit, and you can't let yourself start getting drawn into that deceptive role. And that's why it's up to us to continue to move forward, use that discipline to be maybe not the greatest of all time, but be the greatest that you can. And that's what I really want the listeners of today's podcast to really take home. It's not about being the greatest of all time. We're all not going to be the Tom Bradys. But you know what we can be? We can be the greatest possible leader, the greatest possible of our craft, person of our craft. Those are the things we can control. We do it the right way. You get the proper education, the proper training. You continue to work hard at your craft. You continue to improve. And you look for ways to find opportunities to continue your success, to be better. So that leads me to this. With our podcast, I'm looking to continually improve. I want my content to be better. I want my motivation to be better. I want my excitement to be better. I want to make sure whatever conveys to you as the listener, that you feel that I'm passionate, that I'm dedicated, that I'm going to bring you everything that I got every time out. And I want to thank my wife and my son for their continued support during these podcasts, because it does take some time. And, I let them know how important it is for me to share with you guys and how we can improve together as Gen Z and millennials and move forward and be successful as a group. So again, I want to thank everybody for the 100th episode of Gen Z and Millennial Expert Podcast. This is the daily podcast, usually Monday through Thursday, and some Fridays. We do take the weekend off to refresh, get back, get excited again. So happy Monday. I want to thank everybody again. The best way to get in touch with us is via my email, jason@jwigginsconsulting.com, or via my website, genzandmillennialexpert.com, where you can catch all the podcasts, or you can listen on your favorite platform. So again, thank you as always. If it's the morning, afternoon, or night. Be safe. Take care. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Happy 100th episode. Bye-bye.